Welcome back. Thank you for staying with Checkpoint. Let's continue informing you. Now, tonight we turn our lenses to a man who has faced countless arrests, yet has never been convicted. A man who has endured harassment and torture at the hands of those meant to protect him. Julius Kamau, a man of mystery and resilience. Our investigative reporter, Ode Francis, went on a fact-finding mission to unchain the chained protester, Julius Kamau. Listen in.
For the second time in less than a week, protests erupted in Nairobi and other towns in Kenya, bringing businesses to a standstill and causing major disruptions. A report by the United Nations Human Rights on 14th July 2023 reported up to 23 people were killed and dozens injured in the demonstrations in the past 1 week.
Not to kill them, not to beat them, not to intimidate them, not to make them live in fear. No.
Many have seen him in the CBD, while others may think he is a madman. But no, the 45-year-old Julius Kamau is a man on a mission.
The majority of our people are harangued by a corroding sense of fear and an sense of nobodiness.
On this day, the 12th day of July, when other protesters resolved to go head-on with the police in running battles, tear gas, Julius was alone in the CBD, chained to himself. The police, both uniformed and ununiformed, would bump on him and take him to court. But before that, Julius claims he has undergone torture.
Africa, you don't have any right to do that. We are all equal in the eyes of the Lord. I'm not afraid. I am not afraid. Give me death or give me freedom. I am ready to die for this country. I am ready to die for my people.
They inserted a screwdriver to my left ear and pushed. It was very painful. Then they hit me on the head. You can see the head is swollen. They hit me in the eye, in the blows, and all that to my body, everywhere. Then they put a chain, the chain that I had tied myself in. They put it around my neck and pushed hard. In fact, I almost suffocated. It's by the grace of God that I'm still alive.
We followed Julius through the process to understand what his struggle is all about.
I always love carrying placards because nikionyesha watu placards, alafu sasa nikiongea watu watapata ile the relevance the message nataka kupeana.
So you never plan for what you normally do during this fracas?
No, I think when you are alone, there's no much planning to do.
As Julius was set to be arraigned, his arrest was booming online, with everyone calling for his release. What Julius didn't know was that prominent and high-level lawyers had come to offer their services pro bono, and one of them is Senior Counsel Gitobu Imanyara and Lempa Suyanka, together with Otieno Aluoka, who has been on his case since 2019.
We even have a case of 1043 of 2019, yes, where the same prosecutor and the police had arrested him and preferred similar charges, and for 2 years he attended court, and because the prosecution could not sustain that case, they withdrew it under section 87.
Because anyone who lives in Kenya will have seen Rufus Kamau chained alone on a street and not being violent. So now to come and mix his name with several others and cheat Kenyans that he was participating in an unlawful assembly is actually to undermine even the very concept of administration of justice. And it's something that we need to speak out about. And that is the reason I felt I needed to come and be in solidarity with them.
In court, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, together with the investigating officer, would withdraw the charges against Julius.
In the circumstances, but it was reached the decision to have the matter against the second accused person, one Julius Kamau Kimani, in line with the directions of my office to withdraw the matter under section 87A of the CPC.
Therefore request that the charges against the second accused person withdrawn.
And then have the second accused person, one Julius Kamau Kimani, charges are withdrawn pursuant to section 87A, so you're a free man.
Now, I got a privilege to sit and listen to Julius Kamau's case in these buildings, that is the High Court of Milimani. He has been released. I mean, we want to establish, for the longest period, we have seen him in the streets. He has been brought in these courts and he has never been charged and taken to prison. We will follow him and see how his life is from where he lives. After his release, I walked with him to his house, accompanied by his two comrades.
Mini hoka in the CBD. Hii kazi ya kusumbuana na serikali, niseme nilianza back, I don't know, it was 2015 or it was 2017, there, 2017. Back then, nilikuwa Ngara, nafanya kazi Ngara ya hawking.
Julius believes that poverty is modern day slavery. You don't fear that one day you might find yourself into what Julius amejipata?
I mean, that's normal in the struggle. When you come within the struggle, you have to expect handcuffs, you have to expect tear gas, your life is in danger sometimes, you get threatened by the police or people in power. But it doesn't stop you. Like, we're always seeing that when we lose our fear, they lose their power. And that's something that really motivates me, and I keep on advocating for that. When we lose our fear, they lose their power.
Let's say I'm angry and bitter with this system. I'm always angry and bitter because of seeing these people taking advantage of our ignorance of the masses.
Mbeere North Member of Parliament, Geoffrey Ruku, has proposed a bill that seeks to regulate the conduct of demonstrations.
For us to have politicians in future who will not destroy our infrastructure, and if they do, they pay for the destruction. That's why we have to enact this legislation.
A man wants to live for a better Kenya. So as this court sets Julius free this afternoon, all I want to say is, could I associate further with my learned friend's submission and ask court to see what other order can protect Julius, a man who was not demonstrating. You all know he had tied himself. Maybe you could call it picketing. He had tied himself. There's no way he was in situ.
Though opposition leader and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga has called for weekly nationwide protest against the high cost of living, Julius claims the political class in the country is not genuine in what they purport to fight for.
Okay, me sina mlengo. In fact, sijai vote. I've never voted. That's one thing. In fact, from the time of Kibaki, mimi nilikuja kuona siasa ni mchezo inachezangwa. You see, it's a game of power. So mimi nilichukia siasa sana because naona watu wana suffer, but these people are not addressing issues, but they still want us to worship them and all kind of things. So mimi sina mlengo wowote.
Julius Kamau is a lone soldier in the fight for a better Kenya. He speaks for all of us. He's not afraid of being beaten or arrested. You can arrest him, you can torture him, but he'll never keep quiet. And I salute his courage. And he has been very consistent in his fight against impunity.
The United Nations Human Rights now want thorough, independent and transparent investigations into the death and injuries, while those responsible must be held to account. They propose effective measures to prevent further deaths and injuries during demonstrations.
We must fight for equality, justice, and freedom. These are God-given rights, and we must get them.
Every morning when Julius gets out of his house, he is always armed with his apparatus, with a lot of wordings that make everyone realize that he is fighting for social justice in Kenya. He might be alone, but...
All right, Aluta continua, the struggle continues. Shifting focus now, members of the clergy